Shalom family, all Israel. This is Judah. Today's lesson is the gathering and the last days. The reason I'm doing this video is because, as I usually do, I scroll through other YouTube channels, watch other teachers, just so I can see what's being taught. And to me, that's the general description of a watcher. Not meaning that I can do so much about it, but I believe that the teachings today of the so-called teachers on YouTube and any other platform should be monitored, because this is one way that many of our people are being misled because of disinformation or misinterpretations. And there's so many teachers that I've noticed myself that are teaching and they overlook the context. When you overlook the context, you end up in error. And I'm not saying I'm better or worse than anybody else. I'm just saying that we have to find a way to help each other. Because when you teach, you need to consider the young people or the young in the truth. They're like babies. You got to be careful what you feed them. So that causes me to really watch closely. And I watch a lot of different YouTube teachers. And I ran across this one teacher, and I'm not putting this guy down, and I'm not browbeating him. But as I watched his lesson, I saw so many errors. And the weird thing about it is that he wasn't 100% wrong, but he wasn't 100% right. And as I watched his lesson, I realized this could really cause a huge stumbling block. But his lesson was based on the gathering. And according to his understanding, the place that they're at, which is Namibia, which is down in South Africa, in his mind, that is the place, the only place that is called for the gathering of the Most High's people. That is error number one. The second error is he's backing up a lot of his claim with the New Testament. And I have a hard time understanding how anybody could teach 100% error-free when you teach from a fake book. Third error is they don't wear fringes. Fourth error, they keep the Sabbath on the Gregorian calendar. Well, now, whether they realize it or not, by doing that, they follow man. The fifth error is he used, I don't know if it was his siblings or family members in general, but he mentioned whoever these were, family members or siblings, all of their birthdays fell on feast days. And to him, that was a sign. Well, first of all, if you know the scriptures and you understand the Most High scriptures, then you should know the Most High does not place any importance on birthdays. If you read the whole scripture, you will not find one prophet or any significant character in the Torah that mentions a birthday. You will, however, find death days, the time they died, but you'll never find anybody's birthday. As a matter of fact, in the book of Job, the only time the birthday was ever mentioned was when Job's kids were inside the house celebrating one of the siblings' birthday, just before they were all destroyed. Outside of that, you will not find anything about somebody's birthday. And there was many more errors that I found. And when I started watching this guy's video, the first time, I think I got through 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's well over an hour. And I just got out. So I went back a second time, and I think I might have made it halfway through, and I left again. The third time, I watched it all the way through. Now, like I said, he really believes that Namibia, South Africa, is the only place of gathering. In other words, this is where all the people of Israel must go. So after I watched this lesson, I decided to do some deep research. Now this, like I said, this is how a lot of our people get misled. I don't know how many people are out there with him. I know he said that there were 10, I believe he said there were 10 men leaders. And I don't know if he mentioned how many were out there on that land with him. But I went through his website and I found a picture which looked to be like maybe 10 or 12 tents. Now, how many people in one tent? I don't know. But he has like maybe 1,200 and some odd followers. But this is serious. This is dangerous. And as I watched this lesson, he didn't really have any context. So I decided that I would do a lesson based on the gathering and explain the things that he misunderstood. I'm going to tell you what they really meant. So when he was teaching this lesson, he was under the impression that the land that we should go to would be desolate and it would have briars and thorns. All right, that's the part he did not fully understand. And as we go through this lesson, I'll make it clear to you what the briars and thorns represented and what it really meant. So, with that being said, let's get started, shall we? The gathering, the last days. Oh, and by the way, Tuesday is the Sabbath for those who believe. For those who don't follow Gregorian calendar, only leaves the creation calendar. The creation calendar says Sabbath is Tuesday, which will be 7 days, hence the 7th day from the new moon. So let's get started with this lesson. Isaiah chapter 27 and verse 4. I have no wrath. Should someone give me briars and thorns in battle, then I would step on them. I would burn them completely. Simply put, how should we understand this verse? Who, and pay attention, Who, not what, who are the briars and thorns? As you probably noticed, when we use the word who, we are referring to people or beings. Who are the briars and thorns? And why is it given to someone in battle? Again, we are referring to people, not a bush, not a patch of land. What is the prophet trying to convey here? Or should the verse be translated differently? It's all in Isaiah. And this is a good question. Also, why the whirlwind is in the thorn bush. The expression loosely translated as briars and brambles or briars and thorns appears 6 times in the Old Testament and once in reverse form, brambles and briars, all of them in Isaiah. The New International Version translations are, I will make it a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated, and briars and thorns will grow there. I will command the clouds not to rain on it. Isaiah 7:23. In that day, in every place where there were 1,000 vines worth 1,000 silver shekels, there will be only briars and thorns. Now, I believe the Most High is referring to the wicked that will be or is inhabiting this place. They are the briars and the thorns. Isaiah 7:24. Hunters will go there with bow and arrow, for the land will be covered with briars and thorn. Isaiah 7:25. As for all the hills once cultivated by the hoe, you will no longer go there. Okay? You will no longer go there. So if they are on that land, what does it say? You will no longer go there for fear of the briars and thorns. Now, why would you fear a bush that you could walk around or totally avoid it, completely avoid it? Why would you fear something you could avoid? So obviously, this is not talking about a bush or a patch of land covered with bushes that have briars and thorns. They will become places where cattle are turned loose and where sheep run. Now, this is another reason why he figured that they were on the right land. Because in that area that they're on, they noticed cattle and sheep that was on that land. There was nobody farming or anything such as farming or anything like that. So they were convinced this must be the right place because they saw cattle and sheep. And they were kind of like just roaming around wild. All right. Isaiah 27:4. I am not angry. If only there were briars and thorns confronting me. When have a bush confronted anybody? These are clues that he completely overlooked. Now again, I'm not beating this guy up. What I'm trying to do is make sure if any of my people on this channel have watched this guy, and I really don't want to bring his name up because I don't want anybody thinking that I'm trying to put myself above him or make him look bad. And some of you might know who I'm talking about. But let's read Isaiah 27:4 again. I am not angry. If only there were briars and thorns confronting me. bush, plants, trees, they cannot confront you. It has to be a living being. I would set them all on fire. Isaiah 10 and 17. The light of Israel will become a fire, their Holy One a flame. In a single day it will burn and consume his thorns and his briars. Now, Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 17 is really an extension of Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 18. We'll deal with that a little later. So the shamir and sheet, the briars and thorns, in 27 and verse 4, are some types of weeds that burn. Amos Cohen, or Cain, a famous Hebrew writer on nature in the early 20th century, identified these plants as Sarcopoterium and thymus, plants that were until his time gathered for use as tinder and fuel. In other words, like kindlings to start a fire. They are a metaphor of desolation and impurity. That's what this is talking about up here. This is a metaphor. When we talk about the briars and the thorns, it's a metaphor for this. They are a metaphor of desolation and impurity because they are the very first weeds to take over following destruction or negligence. The exact meaning of metaphor varies somewhat according to the specific verse and the context of the verse. Isaiah 27 and 4, again, this is a hard verse to understand, even for native Hebrew speakers with a good background in Old Testament Hebrew. The first thing to note is that in this verse, the wall, which is I, meaning, and is missing. So the I and the word and is missing. So the literal translation is briars, brambles, and not briars and brambles. This is how easy it is to get confused. The Common English translation relate to the missing wall as if it were a copyist mistake and interpolate it back into the translation. I think that this is a mistake and that the missing wall is intentional. The missing conjunctive wall turns the phrase briars, brambles from a reference to plants into a term indicating intentional desolation. That is, whoever gives me briars, brambles, destruction leading to desolation. Most of the Common English translation phrase, parse, the Hebrew according to the Tiberian diacritics in the received manuscripts, and this results in an incorrect reading of the verse, which is what this guy did. This verse looks to me like a shorthand staccato style that should be read as 4 sentences. I have no wrath currently on any nation, no open accounts, but whoever would mess with me bring destruction or cause negligence. I will stride in war. In which war I will ignite it, all the briars and the brambles together. Weeds usually grow by negligence. They aren't actively sown. Nobody goes out to intentionally plant weeds. So this usage indicates wrath even for offenses of negligence, or possibly for the offense of introducing an impurity in the Most High's vineyard. Who is the vineyard? Israel. So we're talking about people. Israel is part of these people that we're talking about in the beginning of this lesson. These weeds contrast with carefully cultivated produce referred to in Isaiah chapter 7 and verse 26. Let's take a look at it. In days to come, Jacob shall take root. What is root? Most commonly referred to as the root of a plant. Israel shall blossom and put forth shoots. What is shoots? Like on corn husk. When you grow corn, those leaves that sprout out are called shoots. And fill the whole world with fruit. Now we're talking about Israel here. This interpretation, which is similar to that of Ezra, makes for an easy read that fits the thematic context at the cost of going against the accepted Tiberian vocalization, which the NASB accepts in the last phrase, where the bet should be accented. Because of an apparent ambiguity in the original text, there are some notable differences among the various translations and interpretations of Isaiah 27 and 4. Acknowledging the difficulty of the text, I offer an alternative perspective based on my own sense of how Isaiah 27 and 4 fits within the context of this passage. Reflecting on the differences in the translations, I come to the conclusion that there is not one, but two ways to interpret Isaiah 27 and 4, both of which are appropriate to the immediate as well as to the overall context of the passage. These two interpretations of Isaiah 27 and 4 is presented or represented in the translations below. Both renderings are possible because of a certain fluidity, which is flow, as well as the absence of punctuation in the text. If only there were briars and thorns confronting me, I would march against them in battle. Now, do you go to war with bushes, trees, plants? So this is not talking about a bush with briars and thorns, or a tree, or a patch of land. Let me read it again. If only there were briars and thorns confronting me, I would march against them in battle. We're talking about a war. I would set them all on fire. Should someone give me briars and thorns in battle, then I would step on them. I would burn them completely. In the NIV, it is the Most High who would march in the battle to destroy the briars and thorns. These are wicked people that this briars and thorns are referring to. The briars and thorns are understood to represent our sins, which may grow in the Most High's vineyard among the Israelites, despite his watchful care. But the Most High has no wrath. If men were to heed his call to reconciliation, their sins would be consumed in the fire of the Most High's mercy. In the NASB, briars and thorns are given in battle against the Most High. Notice how the placement of in battle is different from the NIV, and how that change alters the meaning of the context or of the text. In the NIV, in battle refers to the Most High's actions towards the briars and thorns. In the NASB, in battle does not reference the Most High's action, but men. Y'all follow me? Here the focus is on those who set themselves in opposition to the Most High and his vineyard. Who is his vineyard? Israel. Unless they make peace with the Most High and plead for his protection. He's talking about Israel, y'all. They will be destroyed in the fire or of the Most High's justice. The dual meaning in Isaiah 27:4 parallels the two contrasting landscapes presented in Isaiah chapter 27 of the Most High's fruitful vineyard on the one hand and a barren, desolate city on the other. But why have the two passages or the two messages been represented by the same words? The key lies in the words. The Most High has no wrath. These words speak to the unchanging nature and goodness of the Most High, and the construction of the verse is a reflection of that truth. The Most High has no wrath and pleads for all to make peace with him. The outcome depends on how men choose. What's the key word here? How men choose to respond to that call. Not branches or bushes or thorns and thistles or briars and thorns. Briars and thorns first appear in Isaiah chapter 5, and it reads in the NIV, "Now you dwellers," listen to this. He's referring to what? Briars and thorns. Now you dwellers, listen. Now you briars and thorns in Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard, Israel. What more could have been done for my vineyard, for my people, Israel, than I have done for it? When I looked for good grapes, why did it yield only bad? Now I will tell you what I'm going to do to my people, my vineyard, Israel. I will take away its hedge, and it will be destroyed. I will break down its wall, and it will be trampled. In that land that this guy's on, the briars and thorns are not destroyed as it said it would be right here. Okay? I will break down its wall, and it will be trampled. Neither are those bushes and briars and thorns trampled. So he could not be talking about briars and bushes or briars and thorns as a place of your gathering. I will make it a wasteland, neither prune nor cultivated, and briars and thorns will grow there. I will command the clouds not to rain on it. Contrary to the watery vineyard that grow good fruit, contrary to Israel who obey me that grow good fruit, the briars and thorns represent an unfruitful state that the Most High abandoned. An unfruitful state, which is transgressions, breaking of the laws, an unfruitful state that the Most High abandoned. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone. Listen, y'all. The seeds falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word. Bushes, briars, and thorns cannot hear. But the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word. You cannot be referring to a bush, because a bush, first of all, cannot hear. It cannot choke the word. This is a metaphor for his people, the vineyard, Israel, making it unfruitful. Now let's take a look at Isaiah 27:4 again. How Isaiah wrote about briars and thorns. Chapter 27 began with the defeat of the Leviathan, who represented the suppressor of the east, the Assyrian and the Babylonians, and the sea monster, suppressor of the west, the Egyptian. The Most High will return to Jerusalem and restore his people, the Israelite. That is verse 3. I, the Most High, watch over it. I water it continually. I guard it day and night so that no one may harm it. In verse 4 it reads, I am not angry. If only there were briars and thorns confronting me, I would march against them in battle. I would set them all on fire. The Most High is no longer angry anymore. As the Israelite had got their atonement from being exiled, now the Most High will gather them back to Jerusalem. Now this is another part that he halfway got right, but he don't fully understand, and I'll explain a little bit later. But now the Most High will gather them back to the Jerusalem. Now let me just go ahead and say, the part that he got right is the land that he's on could very well be one of the lands. You see, this is what he didn't get. The Most High said, I will gather you. Now he says, I will take you back to the lands, plural, meaning more than one. He believes there's only one. But he could be on one of those lands, which would make it correct. But the problem with that is he's too far away. Well, I can't really say that. So I'm just going to say he could be in one of the right places, but it's not the only place. And I'm going to show that to you later on. This does not mean that the Most High will gather his people straight to Jerusalem from captivity. And this is something people need to understand. You will not go from your captivity straight into Jerusalem. You will go to the lands that your fathers was given as an inheritance first. And then you will be gathered from there. So it won't be no one spot. It won't be one particular place in the continent of Africa. It's going to be lands. There was 12 tribes. Each one of them was given a portion of land. He left that out. And from there, well, let me finish. This does not mean that the Most High will gather his people straight to Jerusalem from captivity, but from the lands inherited by our forefathers, and from there to Jerusalem. Okay, now is the difficult part. If the sins of the returned Israelite had been forgiven, where did the briars and thorns come from? The translation begins with if only. It appears that the sentence is a hypothetical form. He completely overlooked that. The King James Version begins with who would? A question like, who dares do this to me? So the sentence is a hypothesis. It means no briars and thorns would exist anymore in the land that the Most High is guarding. If there was, the Most High would set them all on fire. I think briars and thorns represents vain thoughts. In Hebrew, these would be called imaginations. There's a word for that in Hebrew called yetzer. And I recommend a word study of yetzer. So I'm saying you guys study on this word. Genesis chapter 6, 5 through 6. And the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts, every briar and thorn imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Most High that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. In the past, the Most High destroyed these imaginations with water called the flood of Noah. But next, he will destroy them with fire. So why would briars and thorns represent vain imaginations? Well, let's present some evidence. Linguistics. The root of yetzer, or the three-letter root, YSR, can be pointed as yatzer, which means to form, or yetzer, which means to imagine. They are related to by the fact that the yetzer is a form that is not made real. It is a form that exists only in the mind. It is what man shapes, but not in the world, but just with the power of his mind, which is the only arena in which man can fight the Most High in his imagination. We cannot fight the Most High by punching the air. We can only fight the Most High in our minds. That's the reason he says to renew our mind. Imaginations. The Most High does not like man's imaginations. Genesis chapter 8, verse 21. And the Most High smelled a sweet savor. And the Most High said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done. The one who rejects the Most High is the one who walks in the imaginations of his heart. Deuteronomy 29 verses 19 and 20. And it come to pass, when he heareth the words of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of mine heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. The Most High will not spare him, but then the anger of the Most High and his jealousy shall smoke him against that man. And all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and the Most High shall blot out his name from under the heaven. When nations make war against the Most High, they do so with vain imaginations. Psalms 2 and verse 1. Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? Psalms 140 verses 1 to 2. Deliver me, O Most High, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. The redeemed man who is at peace with the Most High will not walk in the imagination of his heart. Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 17. At that time they shall call Jerusalem the throne of the Most High, and all the nations shall be gathered unto it. Now, let's stop here for a second. This guy is saying that the nation of Israel are supposed to gather in Namibia. There is no way all the nations of the Most High's people are going to fit there. That's not going to happen. And if that's the case, then why did he say the Most High? At that time, they shall call Jerusalem the throne of the Most High, and all the nations shall be gathered into it. To the name of the Most High, to Jerusalem. Neither shall they walk any more after the imagination of their evil heart. So as we can see that Namibia is not the one and only land of Israel inheritance, as some teach. Since the New Jerusalem is prophesied to be in Mount Kenya, Namibia might just be one of the inherited lands of a gathering of Israel, but not the only one or the one in specific. You must understand that. The Most High's rejection of Israel is based on the fact that they walk in the imaginations of their heart. Just like they imagine the Gregorian calendar is permitted for them to follow. I don't get that. We all know that we should not follow these heathens, and then they write a calendar and we follow it. I don't get that. But that's in your vain imagination. If you follow that man's calendar, you are in a vain imagination. Jeremiah 13 and verse 10. This evil people which refuse to hear my words, which walk in the imagination of their own heart and walk after other gods. Do you realize that when you follow Gregorian or the heathens or anything that they produce, you are worshiping after other gods? Every day they named on their calendar, and every week or month is named after their gods. The creation calendar is the only one that has no such names. To serve them and to worship them shall even be as this girdle, which is good for nothing. We challenge the Most High with our imagination. Nahum chapter 1 and verse 9. What do ye imagine against the Creator? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. Briars and thorns. Symbolically, the thorn is something that comes up out of the ground, out of man, sin, transgression, hate, vain imaginations. Who is the ground? Where was man made? From the dust of the ground. So what comes up out of the transgressor? Briars and thorns. Yet it has no life and bears no fruit. Rather, it chokes that which does not have life and does bear fruit. It's a constant source of pain. As part of the curse, Adam was condemned to being tormented with thorns that would come out of the land, which he would have to struggle with. Genesis chapter 3 verse 18. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. Thorns represent the portion of the land that is not conquered. The portion of yourself is that the portion of yourself that is not subject to the Most High. I know y'all got that. Again, here's another metaphor, meaning man has not yet conquered his sin entirely. Numbers chapter 33 verse 55. But if ye will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass that those which ye let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and shall vex you in the land wherein ye dwell. See Joshua chapter 23 and verse 13. As a matter of fact, I put it here. Joshua chapter 23 and verse 13. Know for certain that the Most High, your Creator, will no longer drive out these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps for you, and scourges on your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land which the Creator your Father has given you. Now, Judges chapter 2 and 3 in context. The angel of the Most High at Bochim. The angel of the Most High went from Gilgal to Bochim and said to the Israelites, I took you out of Egypt and brought you to the land that I promised to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you. You must not make any covenant with the people who live in this land. You must tear down their altars, but you have not done what I told you. You have done just the opposite. So I tell you now that I will not drive these people out. As you advance, they will be your enemies, and you will be trapped by the worship of their gods. Saturday sundown, Friday sundown. When the angel had said this, all the people of Israel began to cry, and that is why the place is called Bochim. There they offered sacrifices to the Most High. Thorns are unique in that they cannot be grasped with hands. They can only be burned with fire. 2 Samuel chapter 23 and verse 6. But the sons of Belial shall be all of them as thorns thrust away, because they cannot be taken with hands. But the man that shall touch them must be fenced with iron and the staff of a spear, and they shall be utterly burned with fire in the same place. Thorns will be consumed with divine fire. We're talking about a body of a being, the soul of a being, the spirit of a being, not a patch of land, not a bush or a briar and thorns. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One of a flame. We're talking about Isaac and Jacob. You can see this in Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 18. And it goes, the people of Israel will be a raging fire, and Edom a field of dry stubble. The descendants of Joseph will be a flame, roaring across the field, devouring everything. Devouring everything. There will be no survivors in Edom. There will be no survivors in Edom. I, the Most High, have spoken. And it shall burn and devour his thorns and his briars. Y'all listening? And it shall burn and devour his thorns and his briars in one day. I mean, come on, man. I don't know if I can make this any plainer. This guy is terribly mistaken. And like I said, he's not 100% wrong. And he's not 100% right. But by him not having the whole complete understanding, he could easily be misled. This suggests that the thorn is unrepentant. Bushes cannot repent. This suggests that the thorn is unrepentant, immaterial, and destined for destruction. Vain imaginations would satisfy this requirement and would be the primary thing to satisfy it. Going back to the verse in question, let's look at the verse in context and give an interpretation with thorns as vain thoughts. Isaiah 27, chapter 27, verse 2 to 5. In that day sing ye unto her a vineyard, Israel, of red wine. I, the Most High, do keep it. I will water it every moment, lest any hurt it. I will keep it night and day. Fury is not in me. Who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? Huh? Who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? This clearly should make it understandable that you cannot say that Namibia is a place of gathering because it has briars and thorns, when clearly that is not what we're talking about. Who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? I would go through them. I would burn them together. Or let him take hold of my strength, that he may make peace with me. He, we're talking about a person or a being. I don't like to call those wicked people people, or they're things, they're beasts. Or let him take hold of my strength, that he may make peace with me, and he shall make peace with me. Isaiah 27:6. He shall cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. The Most High is saying that he will tend to his vine, Jacob, representing the second born or the promise, and keep and protect it, guarding it night and day. The enemy of the vine would be thorns or vain thoughts that will grow up from the land, from you, out of you, and seek to choke the vine, the inner man, the sinful man that is in the second born. The Most High does not have fury or rage. He is motivated solely by protection of the vine. But if any thorns appear, the Most High will destroy them. Do y'all get what this is saying? So that the vine can continue to grow unimpeded. Therefore, let the hearer who is considering entertaining vain thoughts make peace with the Most High. By holding on to his strength, the Most High's strength will conquer vain thoughts. And then you will be at peace with the Most High. And the vine will grow and bear fruit within you. According to my understanding, the Most High through prophets was talking about world or earth or vineyard, which is Israel, and thorns and briars, he is referring to unrighteous and ignorant of the world that inhabits the land. That is what he did not understand. The Most High is the very owner of the earth, the garden. He created human to inhabit, subdue the earth, and reproduce themselves, sow the good seeds. Then after a while, exactly after the appearance of the sons of God, deceived angels who came down and took daughters of man, making them their wives, and bore them a giant human. Giant children on earth. The Most High found it that it wasn't his idea to let demons live with human beings. Meaning the giants was not his creation. They were the weeds, but an additional creation made by the devil. So the Most High was saying he is not furious at all if the devil did that to test his tempter, or is creating his own army, briars and thorns, the weeds, to fight him. He, the Most High, will fight them in battle. These are the briars and the thorns. Conquer them and burn them with fire. Well, Lucifer was in good position before his rebellion. You can read that in Isaiah 14:12. Indeed, Lucifer participated in his own creation with the intention to overthrow the Most High and make himself superior. This is how the NIV shows the parallelism structure in context. If only there were briars and thorns confronting me, I would march against them in battle. As I said before, we don't go to battle with briars and thorns that are, literal bushes covered with briars and thorns, trees or plant. We don't go to battle with them. So these briars and thorns are somebody. I would set them all on fire, or else let them come to me for refuge. Let them make peace with me. Yes, let them make peace with me. Briars and thorns are symbols of the unrighteous enemies of the Most High, as described earlier in Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 18. Surely wickedness burns like a fire. It consumes briars and thorns. It sets the forest thickets ablaze, so that it rolls upward in a column of smoke. And in Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 17, the light of Israel will become a fire. This is talking about Jacob and Joseph. Their Holy One a flame. In a single day it will burn and consume his thorns and his briars. Who is the thorns and his briars? Edom and all the other heathens. Briars and thorns are enemies of the Most High and the Israelites. In Isaiah 27 verse 4 and 5, the parallelism shows that they will either get destroyed or they will make peace with him, the Most High. It is a general warning for the wicked. So what was this promised land that we were all told about, or all given to by the Creator as an inheritance? What is this promised land? Let's take a look. There is probably no more disputed real estate on earth than the land of Israel. Even calling it Israel will raise objections from some quarters. The true people of Judah lay claim to the land because they first held possession of it a millennia ago, and because the Most High directly gave them the land as recorded in the Torah. In Genesis chapter 12 and verse 7, the Most High promises Abraham, who had just arrived in Canaan, "To your offspring I will give this land." Later in Genesis 15 and 18, the Most High expands on that unconditional promise. So like I said earlier, y'all, he gave more than one piece of land to Israel. And we're going to see that now. So he says, later in Genesis 15 and 18, the Most High expanded on that unconditional promise. "To your descendants I have given this land from the river of Egypt as far as the great river, the river Euphrates." Then in Genesis 17 and 8, he reiterates the promise to Abraham, adding that the land gift is irrevocable. The whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner, I will give as a everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you. The Most High later repeats the promise to Abraham's son Isaac. Genesis 26, 3-4, and Isaac's sons Jacob. Genesis 28, 13, whose name the Most High later changed to Israel. In the Abrahamic covenant, then the Most High laid out the extent of the land that will belong to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. A territory including all of Canaan, stretching from Egypt to modern-day Iraq. Several centuries later, when it came time for the Israelites to actually take possession of the promised land, the Most High spoke again of a vast area from the Negev wilderness in the south of Lebanon mountains in the north, from the Euphrates River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. Now, from the Mediterranean Sea in the west is where Namibia is. So this is what I meant when I says he's not 100% wrong, he's just not 100% right. So from the Euphrates River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west, including all the land of the Hittites, Joshua chapter 1 verse 4. The promise of the land belonging to children of Israel is permanent. Even when Israel was expelled from their land, which has happened twice in history, the Most High promised they would return. Even if you have been banished to the most distant land under the heavens, from there the Most High, your Father, will gather you and bring you back. He will bring you to the land that belonged to your ancestor, and you will take possession of it. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 4 to 5. This promise is part of what is today sometimes called the Palestinian covenant, or the land covenant. Deuteronomy 29, 1, verse 30 and 10, chapter 30 and verse 10. In foretelling the removal of Israel from their land, the Palestinian covenant anticipated the Babylonian captivity in 586 BC and the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. In both cases, the promise of the covenant held true. The Jews regained their land and their nation in 537 BC. All of this reinforces the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that the Most High would establish Israel in their land as his chosen people. Deuteronomy 29 and verse 13. The land covenant also contains some special promises to Israel that many believe will not be completely fulfilled until the millennium reign of Christ, who is King David. David is the Christ. So we're going to be sent back. We're going to be gathered back into lands, many portions of lands in the continent of Africa, until the end day, and then we will be taken into the New Jerusalem. According to Genesis 15 and 18, Joshua 1 and 4, the land the Most High gave to Israel included everything, y'all listen carefully, included everything from the Nile River in Egypt to Lebanon, south to north, and everything from the Mediterranean Sea to the Euphrates River, west to east. On today's map, the land the Most High stated belongs to Israel includes everything modern-day Israel possesses, plus all of the territory occupied by the Palestinians, the West Bank and Gaza, plus some of Egypt and Syria, plus all of Jordan, plus some of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. The land of their inheritance likely awaits the return of the Messiah, King David. God, the Most High, has given his word that the nation of Israel will never cease as long as the sun still shines by day and the moon and stars still shine by night. Jeremiah 31 verse 35-37. Thus saith the Most High, if heaven above can be measured and the foundation of the earth searched out beneath, then I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Most High. The 12 tribes of Israel, the covenant promise of land. Here is a table of continents of the land proportioned out to the tribes. The covenant's promise made with Abraham portions of land given to each of the 12 tribes of Israel. How the promised land was divided among the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes of Israel today. The Most High's word speaks frequently about the 12 tribes of Israel and about the land promised to them. Yet, how did this promise come to be? And how was the land divided among the tribes? What portions were given? What portions were given? And were the portions of equal size? Look at the 12 tribes of Israel. Also learn how each received a portion of blessing. The covenant promise made with Abraham even before there were the 12 tribes. A covenant promise was made during the time of Abraham. While Abraham is often called the father, Abraham, as the Most High made Abraham the father of many nations, Abraham was also the great-grandfather of those men who formed the tribes. Some of the major promises the Most High gave in his covenant with Abraham include the promise of many offspring from Abraham, beyond what man can count, the promise of authority, of kingships, the promise of it being an everlasting covenant, both unbreakable and binding, the promise of land, what we know as the promised land. As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant to be the Most High Creator to you and your descendants after you. Also, I give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are a stranger. Check this out. You over in the U.S., the Ukraine, Germany, and any other place that we are scattered and we are considered strangers, that's going to be your land too. All the land of Canaan as an everlasting possession, and I will be their creator, their father. Genesis 17 verses 4 to 8. In these covenant promises, each of the 12 tribes of Israel will be entitled to live in the promised land, but not until many generations have passed, including a period of slavery and wilderness wandering. Abraham was also the great-great-grandfather to the two half-tribes known as Manasseh and Ephraim, the sons of Joseph, who are sometimes spoken of as individual tribes and at other times listed under the name of their father. Portions of land given to each of the 12 tribes of Israel. We know of the promise set down in the covenant with Abraham, and that Abraham's descendants, the 12 tribes in particular, will come to enter the promised land. But where did the tribes reside within that promised land? As we look at the portions of land given to each tribe, it is important for us to remember that the modern day Israel is smaller than the land promised by the Most High. Further, not every tribe continued to take the land promised by the Most High. Some chose to settle for only a portion of their promise, and at least one tribe entered land other than what the Most High had prepared for them. So what portion did each tribe receive? From north to south, the tribes was given these areas of land. Asher, farthest north to the west, bordering the Mediterranean Sea. Naphtali, also in the north, just east of Asher. Zebulun, between Asher and Naphtali, near their more southern borders. Issachar, southeast of Zebulun. Manasseh, south of Issachar and ranging from the Mediterranean Sea in the west, going north past the other tribes to the east of Naphtali and Gad, on the southern and eastern borders of Manasseh. Ephraim, west of Gad. Dan, west of Ephraim and bordering the Mediterranean Sea. Benjamin, east of Dan and surrounded by Ephraim, Gad, Judah, and small portion of Reuben. Reuben, southeast of Benjamin and directly below Gad. Judah, east of Reuben and going far into the south, whose land included Jerusalem. Simeon, lying within the borders of Judah. Levi, given cities and priestly duties within the land of the other tribes, and therefore he had no land of the priest of the Levi priests had no land of their own. So Namibia cannot be the only land to be gathered from. Jeremiah 3 and 18 in context. At that time, Jerusalem will be called the throne of the Most High, and all the nations will be gathered in Jerusalem to honor the name of the Most High. They will no longer follow the stubbornness of their evil hearts. In those days, the house of Judah will walk with the house of Israel, and they will become together from the land of the north to the land that I gave to your fathers as an inheritance. Then I said, how I long to make you my sons and give you a desirable land, the most beautiful inheritance of all the nations. I thought you would call me father, and you never turn away from me, away from following me. What is meant by the gathering of Israel? The physical gathering of Israel means the covenant people will be gathered home to the what? Lands. Lands, L-A-N-D-S, of their inheritance, and shall be established in all their lands. Do y'all see what I'm talking about? There is no one spot in this continent that was given. All of what I just shared with you, the lands was given. The physical gathering of Israel means that the covenant people will be gathered home to the lands of their inheritance and shall be established in all their lands of the promise. The tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh will be gathered in the Americas. The tribe of Judah will return to the city of Jerusalem and the area surrounding it. The 10 lost tribes will receive from the tribe of Ephraim their promised blessing. Where will the gathering of Israel take place? The tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh will be gathered in the Americas. The tribe of Judah will return. Listen to this closely. The tribe of Judah will return to the city of Jerusalem and the area surrounding it. So this is saying that Judah will be the only tribe that enters into the land of Jerusalem. All the others will surround it. The 10 lost tribes will receive from the tribe of Ephraim their promised blessing. So, as we have seen from the beginning to this end, there was so much this guy left out because he did not check out the context. And this is why I do lessons like this when I see other people's videos, because I don't know if you watch this. If you have and you're young in this truth, you could be easily confused, easily misled. And so this is why I do this, to try and help you stay focused and on path. Shalom Israel. Much love, family. Tuesday is the Sabbath. All praises to the Most High.